Okay, really quick soft power and things we don't really think about in US foreign policy. I think it's very, very important since I actually have a history of working contract work and nothing rich. I'm very poor. But that's why I go to bars like this. This is a kind of heavy metal bar. I went to Costa Rica. So I worked and did stuff with the cultural center in Nicaragua with the US Embassy. And I also worked in other areas, and I actually got a grant that's a monetary value, like 50 grand. Of course, ASU steals most of it, but help resettle migrants in Costa Rica, Latin American migrants. What's the point of all that? Well, these are things we don't really think about, and that is soft power. Now, it's very interesting at this moment because this really stands in contrast with Trump's more punitive measures, where it's like, where I mentioned before in another lecture, what's going on with Colombia. Colombia denies migrants flown on military jets. So Colombia basically says we're not going to accept them. We'll accept them as citizens, but not like criminals. And then Trump says, well, we're putting up tariffs. We're going to put sanctions. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. More punitive measures. Getting people to do things, that is states or non-state actors in the international system, through punitive measures, through fear, through a stick, no carrot, right? The soft power is basically like a carrot, getting people to follow you, to do things, to align with you, to support to a certain extent your interests, in this case, the United States, being US foreign policy, and getting those people, states and non-state actors on board because they like you. They like your culture. When I lived in Latin America, people would literally love things from the United States, everything from the music, the jeans, movies, etc. They knew more about things than I did. We're going home to watch The Sopranos, right? So one of the things that's interesting is this is a way, soft power, to kind of get people on your side, so they ally with you and your interests. Trump is going more punitively. Is that better than the soft power? But there are soft power initiatives that we don't really think about. Take women's rights. You'll see a video where I'm involved in helping, or not helping, but analyzing a situation with an NGO, that Fundación Mujer, Foundation Woman, or Woman Foundation, that helps women's issues in Costa Rica, particularly migrant women. Does this help soft power in the United States? Also trying to resettle migrants in Costa Rica, which is behind me, a nice hell heavy metal bar, right? Does that help soft power in the United States and, keep migrants there, opposed to just shipping them back in military airplanes? So that's something we have to think about. And the thing behind me, I said the heavy metal bar, because I'm from Boston. It has nothing to do with this lecture. It actually does, because people love our music. Metallica, all the heavy metal, and obviously they like, Britney Spears and stuff like that. But this just happened. I don't like Britney Spears, but my taste is more the heavy metal. So I go to this heavy metal bar here, right in the middle of Costa Rica, San Jose. And it's very interesting because people actually are singing US lyrics, etc. Well, lyrics in English, and they love it. Is that soft power? People like to come here. Then migrants go to the United States. They send back what we call remesas, remittances, and then people, I love the United States. It helped me, buy a car, build a house. That is, in Latin America, a lot of times they buy the land and help build the house with the remesas, or do other things, put my kids in school. Does shipping back these migrants at some of Trump's tough punitive stance, does this hurt our soft power and cause states maybe to react in a negative way and then consolidate against our interests? That's going to depend on you. But it is interesting on a lot of these issues of, gender rights by, say, for example, through USAID and other organizations through the United States, the State Department, etc., does that help build goodwill? You're even going to see a short video on whether we should legalize prostitution or not. That's a little different, but it's an interesting thing in Costa Rica. Will that be good for women's rights? But there is a broad spectrum of policies that the United States, through the State Department and other IGOs, NGOs, governmental organizations, tries to create the soft power. When I lived in Nicaragua, I worked for a while for the North American Cultural Center in Nicaragua. And it was very interesting because they would have diplomats come down and teach about the United States. It's a little propagandistic, but all countries do this. So it's kind of not just a battle of allies, not just a battle of punitive measures, nor war and military, but also a battle of hearts and minds, if you will. So the goal there is to build that soft power. JFK, until he was killed, are we going to see what happened there? Because Trump wants to declassify the documents, went to Venezuela. This was in the 50s to spread land reform, that is giving land to the peasants in order to get soft power. The Peace Corps is all about soft power. This came up particularly after Castro overthrew Batista, and the Russians realized, Soviet Union, hey, we can, have all this soft power in the world, and we wanted to counter that. So soft power is important for U.S. foreign policy. It gets people on our side, not through military might and threats, but more because they like you, want to be part of you, etc. So it's a very, very interesting phenomena, and I'm interested in listening to what you think. I mean, does Trump's punitive measures against migrants and others, does that work? What's going on in Colombia, where now he says, Petro, we're not going to take your crap. This is part of diplomacy. So we have to think about it. Or does that later, this kind of intense threatening, produce a backlash like the Ukraine? Russia says we're tired of NATO expansionism. We're tired of the EU expansion, so we invade the Ukraine for a buffer zone. But that might have created the opposite effect, strengthened NATO, and made other more neutral countries want to join NATO. So sometimes our heavy-handed policies have the exact opposite intentions. But I'll let you, in U.S. foreign policy, national security, etc., decide what you prefer for foreign policy and national security policies. Take care, everyone. And if you're in Costa Rica, go to this heavy metal hell bar because it's creating soft power for us.